That's interesting. All right, yeah, we got a couple minutes before we get rolling here. I'll allow people to show up. Hopefully this is going to work okay, and hopefully the sound is going to be all right. One of the things on the YouTube is you won't be able to hear people in our live broadcast, from the website. So you can go to the destinationfreedom.org website, and if we're live or doing a conference call, you can click on there and come into the live chat, and then that way, if you wanted to ask a question without typing it in, I'll make sure you get your questions answered. Let me start the recording on this here. Well, hopefully we won't have any streaming issues. Welcome to tonight's call. My name is Christopher Gronsky, and this hour, the 7 o'clock hour Eastern Standard Time, is for you to get your questions answered with respect to state versus federal citizenship, things like that. And if you have questions about the passport process or the website or anything about that, I'll be glad to answer that question and help you along your way. And then at the top of the hour, we'll get into the subject matter that I want to handle tonight, and some of that's just foundational federal jurisdiction and the implications of that, and that should be a lot of fun. And I think for a lot of even our clients, it's still something that has to be refreshed, and we'll talk about what people are up against and things like that. So what we'll do is because they can't hear some of the questions online, I'll endeavor to ask the questions so that works out. They also won't be able to see our chat on our GoToMeeting, and so I will endeavor to read those so that you can hear what the question is and things like that. I am recording this, so my request is that you don't turn your video on, because somehow when that comes on, all of a sudden the other person's face is on there, and it ends up being distracting. Maybe it's just distracting for me, but anyway, it makes for better video. And I may be sharing my. I'm not going to share my desktop unless I have to, but I don't think that'll be necessary unless there's a question about the website. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and get to your questions. So if you have any questions, by all means, just type them into the chat, or you can ask them. But I'm just going to repeat your question before I get into the answer, just for the people that are live on YouTube. So and of course, those of you on YouTube, I was going to say it helps our algorithm if you like and subscribe, but I don't know anything about that, so I don't know if it really helps us or not, but that's what they always say on these things, to like and subscribe, so I'm making up that that's probably an important thing. So anyway, if it's funny or you enjoy it, it's informative, then be sure to like it. And I understand that a lot of times people will come on and they're not a subscriber, and we are trying to grow the website and do more the YouTube channel. So anyway, thank you for that. So let me get to some questions here at the top of the hour. Anything about our processes? Wanted to let you know that tomorrow night, not on this this link to this particular talk, but tomorrow night we're going to do a matrix call, and that is going to be and we'll probably record that, and we're going to listen to the film The Matrix. And so if you come in on that call, I want to make sure that you watch the film ahead of time, so that it's fresh in your mind. So I'll be, for those, we have a number of people that have signed up for us. So for those people, I'm going going to recommend that you watch the film again so it's fresh in your mind, because that first film came out in 1999, and you might have forgotten some things in there. But that call is, with respect to The Matrix, is what it's not going to be. It's not going to be about the film and the hidden meetings behind the film. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be about how the government is, there's a matrix and you don't really want. It's not going to be about government. It's going to be about your life and about what you think is possible. And so the way I frame that is that maybe you can be the one in your own life. And of course, I, as a Christian, I think the information is faith building, and that's really what Morpheus is doing with Neo. And I want to just walk through that with you, and that'll be tomorrow night, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time. If you want to be on that call, or you want to see that call, we'll upload it to the website or something like that. But then you can request that at State Citizen at destinationfreedom.org. You can do that tonight and say that you'd like to be on tomorrow night's call, and just put in the subject line unplugged from the Matrix, and I'll be glad to send you those codes out. I'll send those codes out tonight. So anyway, just want to let you know that was coming up this week. We have a discount right now for most everything that we have on the website, so you can take advantage of that. We will shut down the office somewhere. I think the last email I sent out said those dates on there, but I think it's like let me see if I can see on my desktop what that date is. It's like the if the Christmas is on, we'll probably shut down on Thursday the 21st, and we won't be open on Thursday, and we'll reopen probably on the 2nd of January. Now, some of our work we'll be doing on that. I plan to have a lot of work done between now and that happens. So there's a lot of we have a number of new clients coming on doing the passport process. There's a good discount for that. So we're going to make sure we get all that stuff in play before the holidays hits. So that's our goal for anybody who's got paperwork. And we have other stuff we're doing for clients. So I just want to let you know, it's a very busy time of year. Everything's flowing into the end of the week. The phone is, rigged off the wall, and that's just the nature of it. So, anyway, that's coming up. I am finalizing on a prayer website. I'm going to have a 24-hour prayer website that's geared towards praying for freedom-minded concepts and things going on in the United States as well as the world. And if you're a big advocate of prayer, you might look into some of that. We'll definitely announce when that website is launched, but we're working on it right now, and we're looking to be completing that sooner than later. If you'd like to contribute to that, by all means, you can donate to that. If you do donate in some fashion to Destination Freedom, in whatever capacity, just put on there that it's for the prayer website, and we'll make sure that those funds go to that, and you can help us support that kind of prayer. I'll do some other time when we're ready to launch it. I'll talk about how this is going to be an interactive prayer site, and I don't know that there's anything out there like it. It's going to be about prayer, but I think what God has put on my heart, I'll share some of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that, and I'll talk about that at another time. So anyway, that's what's going on this week. Thanks for your prayers, and for my wife and all, and that's busy and good. And so anyway, let's get into your questions. And if you don't have any questions, I'm going to tell my wife, because she can't understand it if people don't have any questions. So, okay, well, here's something here. Let's see. Online, they says they have a question that's quite unique. They emailed to you a while ago that I haven't heard back. I know you're busy. Oh, so the question's not on here. So, okay, well, I'll be glad to follow up with that if it's come by way of an email. That's fine. I won't be able to answer it on the call here unless I know that. If you want to ask your question online, type that in there. I'll be glad to address that. Again, this hour is going to deal with state versus federal citizenship and our processes and stuff like that. So anyway, but thanks, Self-Healing You. Let's see, questions, comments, snide remarks. Okay, here we go. Someone asks, can I apply for state citizenship passport if an American living in Europe? Yes, you would do that process at a consulate in the country that you're in. We have we just finished up doing a client in Spain. We have a client that's in Dubai that's going to be doing some of that work, possibly doing at that in the consulate there. We have a client in Australia that's going to be doing something at wherever the consulate is in Australia. We have had clients in Saudi Arabia, New Zealand, and even China. So we've done this around the world, a number of different places, and I think I want to say like Luxembourg or other places in Europe. But anyway, that's what's going on. So yes, it's definitely available. That would be the full passport process because it requires won't be able to go to the post office and all that. So we're gonna have to prepare your documents with respect to that. That's well, let me see. Super exhaust 3 months. Okay, it says here. I don't see a question in there. I do see online you're giving a lot of information here that I'll look at. You might want to go to the destinationfreedom.org website and log into our GoToMeeting, and then you can ask your question. And if I don't get to your question on this, I will answer in the reply on the YouTube channel. And then if you want to talk to me, you can ask for my number and go to statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and ask to reach me, and I'll be glad to connect with you by telephone if that works for you as well. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, while I'm waiting for anybody who has a question, we've had some feedback, a couple of things, and I may talk about that. I think I'll wait till one of the clients had an experience at the local post office. I told him that I would talk with them at the top of the hour, so I'll leave it for them to share that. But that was an excellent experience that they had, and I'll talk about it at the top of the hour if they don't come on for any reason. But then another client just came and did the process, the full passport process, and it only took them 3 weeks to get their passport. That's unheard of, That's very fast. I'm not sure which passport agency they were dealing with, but yeah, our process tends to be faster than the regular process. If you don't expedite, the State Department says it's 10 to 12 weeks. If you expedite, it's 4 to 6 weeks. And so without expediting, we're right at that place at about 4 to 6 weeks. And I've had, now this client said that they did this got their passport in 3 weeks. And we had another client, it was about a month. So it's definitely a very fast process. Anthony asked the question, what is everything we receive with the full passport package? Well, what happens with the full passport process, the state citizenship class comes with that. So once you've signed up for the full passport process, then you can go on the website under classes and workshops and sign up for the state citizenship class. That's about a 6-hour class, and mark it down the bottom that you already paid for it. And then we'll confirm that and give you access to that. As a full passport client, as well as even a passport workshop client, is going to fill out a hold harmless agreement. When we do your full passport process, we'll have you on the website. There is a button for a DS11. You fill it out by hand. You can scan it to us. Be sure to include the Social Security number. We won't be using your worksheet. We'll be creating documents for you and emailing them to you. And then once we go over and review with you and making sure that everything is right, then I will mail out your documents, and then we'll go over with you on the phone what it's like to go to the post office and what to expect there. If you're going to be at a consulate somewhere, then I have to share with you, what you can expect there. Matter of fact, we have a client right now that is that's got to travel by the end of the week, and so we're endeavoring to accommodate his process. And he's going to be at a passport agency. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be like in Denver. So sometimes that can be a little bit rigorous for some people, but we do know all of the stuff we've done is with the State Department, and that's part of it. But that's what's included with, one of the things that you also get with the full passport process is that we do up your FOIA documents. That's your Freedom of Information Act documents. So we prepare those for you to get notarized and sent to the State Department so that you can get certified copies of your passport file. That's the completion of the process. If you sign up for the passport workshop and or our full passport process, then you have access to other workshops that dealing with your money, IRS, how you stay out of the federal zone with respect to driver's license and things like that. All that support is for our clients, and there's additional costs for that, but that's also on the website and available to you. We do have a debt discharge workshop that we have available, and there's videos that haven't been uploaded to the website yet, and I think we have some templates that have to be there as well. So that's work that I have on my plate, and we're looking to make sure that that's available before the holidays. So we're endeavoring to get all that work done. So anyway, so that's with the full passport process. Another question is it best to wait and not renew an existing passport? Yeah, there's no reason to wait with respect to you're not renewing any expired passport. If you've already done a passport the usual way, then you're going to be turning in your old passport, whether it's expired or not, and you're going to be letting the State Department know that you are correcting the previous errors on your application. So whether it's expired or not is irrelevant. You won't renew a bad passport application. You're going to do a new DS11. It's going to be after you've done this process and you get certified documents. 10 years from now, you can do a renewal, and that will be a DS82, and you'll still have an explanatory statement that will go along with that. And we've been doing that for clients for a number of years now, because we've been doing this since I think we've been helping other people. Next year will be 20 years we've been helping people. I started this back in the 90s with friends and that, but we started helping people on a full-time basis in about 2004. So I've been doing this for quite a while. So anyway, no need to wait with respect to renewing. You're not going to renew your old passport. So hopefully that makes sense. Any other questions? I have something privately sent. Let's see here. Let me just see if okay, this is the person from YouTube. If you don't want to talk, it's just I won't be able to read through and all that stuff here, so I don't see a question on there right away. It looks like you, if you don't want to ask the question on here so that everybody can hear your questions, then I can deal with that. Otherwise, I would just recommend reaching out so we can talk on the phone. I get that there's a certain level of privacy on that. That's fine. but in order for me to read all that, it'd be all this dead airspace, and I wouldn't want to do that for everybody. So I won't read that now. But yeah, I'd love to address that and help you with whatever it is that's that you're concerned with or you're looking for that information. So again, you can email me at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and then request my cell phone. I'd be glad to send that out to you. So appreciate you in your situation. Everything will work out. There's always a remedy, so that's how that works. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure that I haven't missed anybody. Okay, so about renewal and that. Okay, here we go. Does state citizenship help with FATCA? Yeah, because the FATCA, when they deal with that, what happens is a lot of times one of our courses that we have is when doing a a real estate transaction, they usually are wanting to know if you're a U.S. citizen, because they'll again, in a real estate transaction, one of the attorneys or someone will be reporting to IRS, and usually the way they like to do that is the one who's paying, who has the money, they're putting the responsibility on them to determine the other party's tax status. Okay, and so if they don't get what they want to report, okay, then of course they're warned that if for some reason they don't pay their taxes or whatever, you may be liable for their taxes. Well, that's true. You may be liable, but you're not. But they'll use the word may just so that you know that that's what they may be making up about it. But there's no way that somebody else that has no knowledge of you or what you're doing to be liable for someone else's taxes in that situation. So, but again, it's a way to get the vulnerable party to share with IRS and give them what they call an informational return. So, but we have documents for that, our W-8 and W-9. If you're a state citizen, then you're going to be non-resident and alien with respect to the District of Columbia. Okay, and in our class, our state citizenship class, I show you how the income tax, who has the liability for the federal income tax, and I show you how it's constitutional. Okay, and in the second hour, I'm going to go into greater detail about how the income tax is constitutional, and other things that seem unconstitutional. Really, they aren't if you understand federal jurisdiction, and we'll talk about that a lot. So getting back to FATCA, see what happens is if they're asking for a tax ID number, which is what a W-9 is, it's a request for tax ID. If you don't give them the tax ID number, then they're going to make up, and if you give them your W-8, W-9, your W-8 is a certificate of foreign status, then they're going to assume that you must be a resident alien. Because there's two people that are individuals in the tax code, or U.S. persons, and that is a U.S. 14th Amendment citizen or resident alien. Both those are in federal jurisdiction. Both those entities have a tax liability. So that's the presumption. So that's where they may think the FATCA applies, and therefore they're going to either withhold a certain percentage of money or they want to report. But when you look up and read what it says with respect to FATCA, you don't, as a state citizen, you don't qualify for FATCA because you're not foreign to, if you will, America. You're not a resident alien, okay? And so therefore FATCA doesn't apply. And again, you have to understand what the definition of the term U.S. is. So let me see. There was a question there. Let me see if okay. The foreign bank is asking for Social Security due to birth in the U.S. Right. Okay. And again, look at how you're saying that, birth in the U.S. If I was going to say, I would have to make a presumption that you're saying birth in the States. But if it's the tax code and dealing with the tax issues, then that word U.S. is going to be the District of Columbia. You might say, I wasn't born in the U.S. And I assert, if you look at your passport, at the bottom, there's the state that you were born in. That's not the United States. It doesn't say that. It may say, like mine, it says Pennsylvania, the state of your birth. So you're not born in the U.S., District Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, America, Samoa. So you're not born in the federal zone, okay? So even when a foreign bank is asking for an SSN, you would get, they're requesting a tax ID number or a social. That's called a W-9. You would give them your W-9 and your W-8. And your W-8, if you look at your W-9 that we have on there, on our website for our client support, the W-9 says that you're exempt, and that if you're exempt, you should provide a certificate of foreign status or a W-8. And we have a W-8 specifically for state citizens. You would not be using a W-8 BEN. We don't use them, okay? And so we have, these documents have already been passed through the IRS. These are valid documents. They work well. So that's what you would give them. Now, what the bank does or doesn't do is not in your power or control, but those would be your proper documents. And again, our alignment workshop talks about when someone's asking you, are you a United States citizen? You don't know how to answer that unless you understand the definition of the term United States. And we'll talk about that in the next hour. But that's key to and foundational with respect to that. Now, if the bank is, what the bank chooses to do or not, you could give them, sometimes a bank will accept a passport number, but you must, it's a 9-digit number, but you must remind them and tell them and let them know that it is a passport number. It's not a social security number. You don't want to confuse those because you'll be perjuring yourself. Now, if you feel that the bank is not going to do anything unless you give them a social, it's okay if you give them a social security number. Okay? It's not a problem. But you have to have proper paperwork. And typically, even if you're signing off on the paperwork, you might stamp with our stamp, or you might write all rights reserved without prejudice, non-assumptive, 28 U.S.C. 1746-1. That might be what you put on there. Sometimes they don't want you to reserve your rights. Okay? So how you handle it, if it's a piece of paper, you can stamp it or write on it, or you can give the social security number and say for informational purposes only, or you might write next to the social security number, say C W8 and W9 attached. That's the kind of thing. That way the bank has that. Even though they have the number, they're going to report. And listen, it's not a big deal that the bank reports. That's not what creates a tax liability. Your bad paperwork creates a tax liability for you. Do not fill out bad paperwork. And when I say bad paperwork, don't perjure yourself. The fact that there's nothing to giving them the government number on you. It's an account number. It's not your account. It's the government's account. They use it for identification purposes. Okay, that's fine as long as you give them your W and W-9. If you have concerns about presumptions, then when you fill out their paperwork, give them an explanatory statement so that you're crystal clear that you're not creating a tax liability for yourself. That would be proper. And again, that would be that's important. It's saying that I make sure the charger cable is plugged in. I'm going to make sure that I'm plugged in so that I don't lose my signal here. Let's see if I can get this here. All right. Hopefully I won't lose power on my phone here. So that'll be a disaster, wouldn't it? But hey, in this technological world, sometimes things crap out, but that's okay. So thank you for that question with respect to that. But this is exactly what we handle in our 1445, IRS 1445 class. We handle this in the W8 and W9, as well as our alignment workshop whenever entities are asking you. So we've got all three of those classes that deal with different aspects of being asked for a social security number or tax ID or making a presumption. So anyway, that's some of that. Any other questions? Keep that going there. if we get to a place of where there's no more questions and you're waiting for us to get into the other subject matter, what will I do? I say that I'm going to begin at a certain hour. Well, some people come in on that second hour because this is where we're just dealing with. Some of our clients don't really need to be in on this call where we're talking about this stuff. So that'll come in at the 8 o'clock hour. So I really won't be able to start talk until that hour. But what I would do is take a break, leave everything up and on, and then come back in. But there you go. Thank you, Brianna, for a question. I feel like Indiana Jones. That's good. Okay. Do you have any networking options for clients to get to know each other? Yeah, that's a great question. There are on Telegram, we have a Destination Freedom page, and anybody that's interested in state citizenship on any level can come into that. So that's made up of some clients, and then there may be people that are not clients, and sometimes I have to go in there and let people know to govern themselves better, because I like to keep it on state citizenship as a subject matter. But there are people that just like that want to talk about government breakdown and the crap and all that, and sometimes I have to restrict by request, when they want to talk a lot about COVID and the vaccine and all that, medical health and all. But that's on destinationfreedom.org. I do have a Telegram channel called State Citizen, and that's made up of only invited clients. And so maybe you'd want to be in that situation, that type of a community to develop those relationships. Now, what I would recommend in your own state is that you know who the freedom-minded people are in your state. And so either on Meetup or on Facebook or on some sort of social media, you might want to invite people to get together on a regular basis. I do have a call, usually on a Thursday night, where we talk about developing a Freedom Fellowship or some sort of a building community. I am definitely committed to building local communities where you are. For years, long before I was doing all this, I would plan a Monday night as what I would call a Freedom Fellowship. And whenever I was talking to people during the week about freedom, I would say, hey, Monday night at my house, we'll have soft drinks or whatever it is, we'll have beers or whatever, and we'll chit chat and talk. And wherever I was living, I would have a Freedom Fellowship just because it was just convenient to bring people and get them to commit to getting together. Now, this culture that we live in is so bad. I remember putting up signs in local towns saying, freedom, come to Freedom Fellowship, we have free beer. Man, when I was growing up, if someone said they had free beer, I would be there. I didn't care what they were doing. There's no Salvation Armies that are going to hand out free beer and listen to somebody preach. But I remember having a free beer night, and nobody but the regulars showed up. I was like, my God, what's wrong with people? But that's out there. There's another question. Here's a common question. Once one establishes himself as a state citizen, there's no need to have an LLC, correct? Yeah. You never have to do business with government, okay? Any kind of a corporation, limited liability, if you're asking the government to protect you, that's a privilege, and you can be taxed and regulated, okay? S Corps, C Corps, any kind of an incorporation is going to be moved into the public venue and is not private. There's no such thing as a private corporation. End of story, full stop. No matter how small your incorporation. All corporations are born out of irresponsibility. If you do a certain kind of work, there are insurance companies that are glad to insure you for a small fee. They'll set you free, okay? And so the idea is that you can buy insurance to protect yourself with respect to if you feel like there's a danger or a liability. You might carry insurance on your house. You might carry insurance on your business. When I had a high-rise window cleaning company, I carried $1 million liability policy, and towards the end, when I was doing high-rise rappelling and some of my high-end residential, I carried $10 million worth of insurance on. Not that I would ever do $10 million worth of damage. I mean, what do I have to do? Bust the windows along the whole building? I don't know. $10 million. Anyway, but yeah, there were clients that would want that. When I did work for Waste Management, that's a big company, they wanted their vendors, their contractors, to have $10 million. So I carried it, and they paid for it. That's the beauty of it. The one that's paying gets the warm, fuzzy feeling, okay? There's a price to that. So anyway, so everybody benefited from them wanting that. So you can do that, but you don't have to form a corporation. Usually when our clients come on, they have corporations, they have to process out of it and move everything they do in business into their private capacity. If they have employees, they're going to have conversations about employees that say, like, listen, I'm going to be shutting down all my employees, but I'm glad to contract with you. So we can draft up a simple contract and we can contract. And I may have other contractors, but I'm not doing employees. I'm not doing payroll. I'm not doing withholding. I'm not doing any of that. You're going to work for me and I will pay you as a contractor. And that's how. Licensing is a little different because some states are pretty aggressive with respect to professionals. And so if you're going to do licensing, the alignment workshop is that kind of work that you would do, because if they ask, are you a United States citizen, or they want a social security number, you might have to have an explanatory statement with respect to that. The person says, does such insurance also cover international business if one's doing business in Europe? I give you permission. Listen, here's the thing. I can't speak for every insurance company. There are insurance companies that have international clientele, of course. Okay, so insurance companies going to ask questions, and many times they're going to ask questions that are, about federal citizens and liabilities, or if they're paying out or whatever the deal is. So again, you're going to have to understand federal jurisdiction, and you're going to have to understand how to answer them or fill out forms and all that. You can learn this stuff, and this is not rocket science. It's easy enough for children to understand. And I'll talk about this later on. We've been indoctrinated well, and we have, still we refer to America as our, in this country. We keep referring to America as a country. It's just not true at all. America is not a country. America is a confederation of states. America's a country as much as Europe's a country. If you think Europe's a country, it's like as if the country of Africa. Africa's creating their union, and that's what they have. So, question: is there any paperwork to file regarding paying contract workers via PayPal, etc.? Now that any payments over $600 reported to the IRS? Well, I don't know how you set up PayPal originally. You may have but if you're set up with PayPal as a business, then they're going to be looking to hit a certain level over $600. They're going to withhold it. They're looking for a tax ID number. That's all true. Okay. I have a PayPal account. I pay people with PayPal all the time. I'm always doing friends and family. Don't do corporate work. You're not doing your busyness with PayPal. It's your personal PayPal account. Okay. So here's what happens with PayPal now. Okay. And PayPal's morphed over the years. As long as I can do a transaction and buy things with PayPal, I'm happy. As long as people give me money with PayPal, I'm happy. So what happens is when people send me money as friends and family, which is what it is. Everybody, all the people I work with are my friends. But anyway, they will do. They'll send to me, and it goes into my bank, and that's all well and good. I have my W-9. PayPal has that. 3 different times I have given PayPal those documents, and it's been great. I remember back when $300 was the limit. Now it's $6. It's all whatever. But back to the so if a client pays by goods and services, PayPal will make note of that, Well, there's an amount that it reaches. If it reaches that amount, then they're going to hold on to that money until I provide social or tax ID number. Okay. So now when that happens, I refund that money because I don't accept goods and services by way of PayPal. Everything I do on PayPal is in my own personal capacity. Right. So even like the work I do, American Supreme Law and Destination for Me, it's just a website, and it's just my own work that I do, for my friends and the people I love. That's all. Someone on YouTube says, I helped get their passport done. It says, now I need to speak to employer about changing and get paid. This is what I say all the time with clients, is that nobody's going to take a tax stand as an employee. If you're going to contract with the company, if the company's good enough for you to work for, or you're good enough for the company that you're valuable, then you can contract. Every significant corporation does contracting work. It's just part of companies doing business, okay? And so you can do that as well. And it's great because once you realize that you can do your own business, whatever it is you do, that's exciting. Now, if you're doing your own business and you're only working for this one company, that means you only have one employee. That means you only have one customer. How good of a company would you be if you only have one customer? See, that's very vulnerable. If that customer doesn't want your business, then you got to go find another customer. And so it's really a great place for you to be, to learn, to grow, and to do what it is you do. And again, if you invest in yourself and you have skills, whatever that may be, or joy, then you can definitely do business, and you can make money. It's not a problem. And I'm committed to helping you do that. Back to that one question, says, via PayPal, says, now that any payments over $600 is reported to the IRS. Yeah, those that are in the federal zone, that they believe they're in the federal zone, they're reporting to IRS. That's an informational return. Banks do it. Everyone does that. Doesn't create a tax liability for you. If you have bad paperwork, then yes, it would. Your bad paperwork is what creates your tax liability. So that's how that works. So just so you know, not a problem. Everything is doable. So you may have to pull out of your existing PayPal account. You might have to set up a different account under a different email, different name in that capacity. It will be your name, but the idea is to shut down your old account and open up a personal account. And it may be, you may have to get a different bank account. I don't know. I've got a couple bank accounts, but that's, one's a personal, one's a business. But I don't do any corporations or anything like that. We stay in the private, and I've done that all along. Originally, when I set up business, we'd set up years ago as a sole proprietor. But even then, my business was a trust, and so I've had it as a pure trust all these years. So that's just how we've done it. So, and that's available to you if you're concerned about your privacy. Is that you set up a trust, and that way you can protect your assets and things like that. And a lot of times people don't understand how to do trusts, and so sometimes they're convoluted, where the trustees or beneficiaries, all that's just a mess. And attorneys only set up trusts in the federal zone, so that's all they know. And so we do foreign irrevocable contractual trusts based in contract. That's your right to contract. And we have other players, if you will, that are part of the trust. We have other trustees that have also done these processes and all that. They're in the same place as you are. They don't have a tax liability or anything. If you have a trust and you're a federal citizen, or if you have a federal citizen as a trustee, that trust is in federal jurisdiction. If you have a tax ID number on anything, you're saying that entity, whatever it is doing business, a trade or business in the District of Columbia. So if you're not in the District of Columbia, then don't have bad paperwork. But that's what it means if you go and get a tax ID number, an EIN or anything like that. All that stuff is in the federal zone. Don't touch it. All in or all out. That's the best policy for that. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, so we're coming down to the last 15 minutes or so, and this question and ask. Let me see if I got a. Okay, yeah. So what is that? That is Grounded in Hex. Hopefully, I can hook up with you. Go to State Citizen at Destination Freedom, so I can follow up and give you the support that you need with wherever you are and what you've done. I'd be glad to work with you on that if that serves you. Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. Let me see if I got any other questions. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. All right. All right. Any else is going on? Trying to think of any other. Oh. Yeah, at the beginning of the year in January, I will launch our IRS class. And basically, I'm going to set up a class with templates, and it's going to be basically soup to nuts of everything that we have with respect to IRS. If you have any kind of IRS correspondence, we have information and data that will deal with any kind of correspondence they have from them. Of course, you won't be able to access that without having a hold harmless being a client. So that's an important thing because we don't want anybody to be harmed. We don't serve federal citizens or resident aliens. We want to make sure everybody's out of the federal zone if we're going to help them, because we don't want people to be harmed or create a tax liability for themselves by making a mistake or what have you. It's too important to do that. Once you understand some of this this process, IRS doesn't feel like a fight, and we don't have to take an attitude. The truth be told, you will tend to agree with the IRS with how they deal with those that they have as a tax liability when you understand the choices that you have to not be in federal jurisdiction. It's a big deal, and it's important for you to understand that. So anyway, there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it's challenging to sort through, but it's exciting. Okay. So let's see here. Any other questions on the table? All right. So boy, my wife's gonna say, "Geez, they were really quiet?" I'm like, honey, they were probably watching TV while this was on. So it might be competing with something. Sometimes some people are like on their phones while they're watching TV. I don't know how anybody does that, but there are people that do that. What else? Anything else coming up? So one of the things we had talked about was that we were going to do a monthly affiliate call so that we can give our affiliates some support. So I'll have to think about it. We probably will launch that in January because I've got a lot of work to get done between now and the holidays. Also, I'm going to do an email on this. Just want to mention to you that I'm going to be in Acapulco in February for the Anarchapulco conference there. Okay, you can go to Anarchapulco on their website and look that up. There's a number of people that are going there. I'm hoping some point that I'll be able to be one of their speakers there, but that's not the case. I will talk at the end of the week that I'm there. We're going to be there from I don't know, somewhere between the 9th and the 21st of February. But here's what I was going to invite anybody that wants to go to that conference. I'd be glad to meet with you, and we could hook up and do some social being together. That'll be a lot of fun. So I'll get you details on that so that you can set up for that. Someone on the YouTube asked, can you change your voluntary tax payment election to legal non-taxpayer without changing your status, state citizen? There's a belief that that income tax is voluntary. Well, just have to ask all the people that are in prison how voluntary it is. Listen, for federal citizens and resident aliens, it isn't voluntary. Okay, the choice to be a federal citizen or not, that's what's voluntary, is your citizenship. So I don't know what a legal non-taxpayer is, where in the tax code it defines that. I've never seen that before. A lot of times people want to use the term non-taxpayer. I don't use that. I don't use the term non-citizen. I don't use non. The only thing I use non is non-resident, because I don't reside in the District of Columbia, and alien. But I don't know those other terms, at least not from the tax code. And I'm also saying this about this: there is no changing of status, if you will. Okay, like as if the State Department facilitates status change. That's the way a lot of people feel, but that's not the case. They're saying that a U.S. citizen is a 14th Amendment citizen. Now, you may have never been a 14th Amendment citizen. You may have filled out bad paperwork for years and years. That's typically what happens. We aren't usually given a choice to be in federal jurisdiction or not. Usually we're the ones that are inviting ourselves into that space. That's usually what's happening. We are creating our own tax liability, and that's what's happening. So hopefully will answer your question. So we're interested in letting the State Department know that someone is not a federal 14th Amendment citizen, or and that they're a citizen of their state in which they have their habitation domicile. There's a question that says, do I have experience with Bitwage? No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with Bitwage. Is that some type of crypto payment of some sort? So, no, I haven't. I'll have to look that up after our call so I can check it out and see what it says. I don't know if it is cryptocurrency, but for all those people that are doing their crypto winnings, and listen, Bitcoin's gone up to $44,000. All those federal citizens and resident aliens that are in America that are got their visas and all, if they have crypto and they have crypto earnings that they're winning and all that, they're gonna have to file and report and pay on those crypto earnings. So I can't imagine anybody in the crypto space wouldn't want to do these processes and change this so that they can, keep their assets. People do a lot of things. There's a question: you can have your wages paid out to you in Bitcoin? Well, one, I don't have wages, but and again, if someone's employed and whether they're being paid in Bitcoin or not, the corporation is going to do what it is in that capacity. So I don't recommend anybody have wages per se. But yeah, I get paid in Bitcoin and Monero and R all the time. And yeah, I accept cryptocurrency and gold and silver. So yeah, I don't need Bitwage in order to get paid. But if someone has wages, they're not going to be, they may have a tax liability with respect to that. But if I was working for a company and say, hey, I want to get paid in crypto, if the company has crypto, well, then of course they can pay with respect to that. Some of that, my wife has a foundational class in cryptocurrency. A lot of people, including our clients, sometimes will move their cryptocurrency through their banks and all that stuff. And then they have know your customer and stuff like that. All that questioning is for federal citizens. And you want to make sure you're staying out of the federal zone. If you're in the crypto space and you're not concerned about privacy, you may be vulnerable to being taken from. If your assets are only on exchanges, it's not your cryptocurrency. It's the exchange's promise to you. And just ask FTX or the people who were on FTX how trustworthy the exchange was. So if you want to get stolen from, keep your asset on an exchange. The only purpose of an exchange is to move it and then to be done, pull it back into your own private wallet. But yeah, I already take crypto for the work we do. So speaking of the little missus, she's now here on the call. So I just was mentioning your foundational class, Lisa. So glad to have you in on this. I want to make sure that this is, what does reside mean? Reside, that's a good question. That was on the YouTube channel. Reside would mean a place you may live or work, as far as the tax code goes. So if you're living or working in the District of Columbia, I think it's after more than 30 days then you will be considered residing. The federal government in the tax code, that's Title 26, says in 7701 that if you're a federal citizen or a resident alien and you live or are found anywhere on the planet, they're going to treat you as if you are residing in the District of Columbia. So that's how those entities are. Someone asked if you're retired and receiving retirement when you become a state citizen, you lose the retirement then? It doesn't mean that you do. But again, who's paying you and what does that mean you're receiving retirement? If you're talking about Social Security, that's money coming from the taxpayers, sort of. And that has a federal income tax liability, of course. And what would be proper would be to file and pay on that money as if you're paying. But our experience is that the IRS looks at that as a frivolous return, and they may charge you $5,000 for that. So the best thing is probably not to file at all and to just let it be. And that's probably what will end up happening. But as far as retirement, the problem is if you're getting stocks or what have you, you probably filled out a W-9, and that W-9 is in error because they're doing a 1099 on your behalf. If you're getting retirement from a company or some capacity, you're still probably filled out a W-9 or some sort, and they're sending in a 1099 of some sort reporting. That paperwork has to be cleaned up and changed. You may choose to receive all of your retirement benefits if there's a such thing as that. And let me tell you, with the coming banking collapse, that might be a good idea. Move it into the crypto space. Listen, I was talking to a friend of mine a month ago or so when Bitcoin was around $25,000. Bitcoin is now it's approaching $45,000. So imagine if you'd had money in Bitcoin just this last month, you're approaching doubling your money. So that's how powerful it is. And listen, Bitcoin's not the biggest return, but it's the one that is moving in this space in a big way. And I'm telling you, it is astonishing. It's easily going to go back to where it was closer to 68,000. So imagine if you were to double, triple your money, just as safe, if you will, in the Bitcoin space. And again, that's if it's in your own private wallet. Or, and then they're projecting that a new all-time high may be the $100,000 mark. And so you can expect that. Then it'll probably drop back down again to some level, probably higher than it is now, but down somewhat like it usually does. But then again, these are not usual days, and the banks haven't been in the same place that they've been in, so it may not behave that way. But if you look at the trends, what happened the last 4 years and before that, you can see what the usual pathway that it makes, and you can prepare for that if that's what you want. Or like we do, we huddle and we hold on. We're looking for long term, so we don't play that in and out. But depending on how skilled you are financially, you could have made a considerable return on your asset, your investment. Again, keeping your privacy paramount, okay? So I think what we're doing is, I think what we're going to do is, I think we'll stay live. I think we'll keep that going. And this end of the call, we're gonna change out, and so that, because I'll break this up when I get this as a recording, I'll break the two parts in. But this will be on YouTube, and that'll be cool. And let's see. So what we're going to do is I'll keep rolling on YouTube. This is going to be a little bit longer. We'll probably, I don't know if we'll do a whole hour. We'll get into some Q&A next hour on some of the subject matter that we're going to talk about. And if after that we get to talking about some of the foundational stuff on federal jurisdiction, we could still get into some Q&A and answer some questions if that works for you. So, okay. But if that's it for you, thank you for being on. I really appreciate you. If there's anything we can do for you, be sure to reach out to us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. And we'll be glad to help you eliminate your income tax liability. So we're doing this on YouTube, Been a lot of years. We just kind of did our own thing, and we just feel that we're going to transition, and there's going to be a lot of changes between now and the first of the year. We're going to do a lot of different things in 2024, so I'm looking forward to that. Probably will do more teaching. I'm hoping that that sometime at the beginning of the year here, I'll be launching my book. That's going to be a book. It's going to be called State Citizen: The Unknown Choice, and that should be a fun experience. Looking forward to that. Well, that's in the editing process right now, so I'm thankful for that. And so what else? There's a bunch of things going on. I've got other website things that I'm looking to do. It should be a lot of fun. Oh yeah, Greg. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so and that's good. We're right at the top of the hour. So anyway, so welcome to destinationfreedom.org. And this is my name's Christopher Gronsky. I'm glad you're here. If you're still on YouTube with us, be sure to like and subscribe. See, it just rolls off my tongue. I have no buttons to click, here or whatever. I don't have any of that. When I get my social media person, they'll handle all that video stuff. So I am looking for a social media person. I'm supposed to talk to Crum about that stuff because he's really an expert in some of that. It's just been very busy at home and what have you for some of this stuff. So, but anyway, I'm trudging and playing along. It's good. One of the stories that I don't want to read it, but one of our clients was doing their passport process. I don't know. Greg, did you want to share that? I think the way you wrote that was pristine. I think you're a good writer because I could just see what you were saying, and I thought you with the way that you wrote it, you handled that well. So, did you want to share what happened, or should I paraphrase? I did see that you did say that I could share it. I guess we're going to hold on to privacy. That's okay. That's cool. Okay, that's cool. I appreciate that. So anyway, so there's a couple doing their passport process. And so they made their appointment. They were going to go to the post office. And so they, so the acceptance agent that was there happened to be the postmaster. Each post office has a postmaster general, and so they're like the management leadership of the post office. And so I'm sure that person is very well versed in how to do passports and all that stuff. So they just were in that space when they came in, and we're going to submit an explanatory statement with our application. And so they looked at it and said, "Well, what is this for?" And they represented themselves well, and so this is what we're doing, and blah 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 and all that. And they're like, "I'm not going to do this here." So it was amazing that they how much resistance this postal person was giving them and what they wouldn't do. Now, when we do the passport process, both in the workshop as well as when we do it, we give the support to our clients to let them know there's a couple things. One, the instructions on the DS-11 says that the information on the form is voluntary. And it also, we also supply with the client the actual statute that governs acceptance agents. And if you look at their responsibilities, they have responsibilities to take the oath. They have responsibilities to receive the data, keep it secure. They have other responsibilities with respect to, receiving documents because they are acceptance agents. Nowhere in the responsibilities does it say that the acceptance agent has the responsibility to make sure your application is okay or right, or that all the data is there. None of that is in their responsibility. These documents including our explanatory statement, are submitted under penalty of perjury as true and correct. And the acceptance agent is not a party to your documents. They have no say in the matter at hand. They're sending this to the State Department, and the State Department knows how to say, hey, we need more, or we need, whatever it is we need. The State Department is able to do that. Now, and so some of the support that we give our clients is we tell them and say, listen, if there's any problems, you can just tell the acceptance agent. If you have any questions, just call the State Department. You have an 800 number, just give them a call. They'll be able to let you know what to do. And we know that because we've had clients do that. I've done that myself. And the State Department says, when they get that kind of phone call, let me say this, the State Department doesn't go over the acceptance agent to find out if they're trained or not, or what's going on with this passport person. They're not going to have a conversation with the acceptance agent about the subject matter of what it is. All they're going to tell them to do is send it in. But in their circumstance, they suggested that to this postal person, going postal, and wasn't very friendly, and said they weren't going to make that phone call. So what they ended up doing was going to a different post office. They took their documents and went to a different post office, and that experience was completely different, which is usually the normal way. Very accepted. That's why they call them acceptance. He said, so you should have said to the postal guy, hey, I don't feel very accepted here. As an acceptance agent, don't you think you should be a little more accepting? No? Now, see, there's two kinds of passport agents. There's the acceptance agent and there's the issuing agent. The acceptance agent is not the issuing agent. And the bottom of page 2 on the application is the issuing agent. Both those in your FOIA, they are both redacted so that you can't see what their signatures are. They didn't always do that, but they do that usually. So anyway, so they went to a different post office and had a much better experience. These guys handled themselves very well. I think that was awesome on their part. And then they also, I think they were taking certain action to report that guy. I think they were reporting to the State Department as well as to maybe it was with the post office or whatever. But it seems as though that postal guy had a bad Yelp review already, or he already had marks against him. So, but anyway, it's weird. I remember. Well, anyway, I hope I represented that okay. That I was very impressed with how you wrote that story. That was very good. It'd be kind of fun to keep it anonymous. I'd love to upload that in our testimonies because I think that's a wonderful testimony, especially how you handled it. That was excellent. I was gonna say something about about that story. Anyway, I think it's good to learn how to function and how to do these things. Years ago, I went to the lady that was in my town. By the way, being what I do, I have clients in New Hampshire that do their passport process, and I used to go to a local. Well, years ago, I used to go down to Boston, and we used to all over America. We used to mail we'd go to the post office, do the passport stuff, and have envelopes, and have that post office actually mail them to Boston. And Boston, there was an acceptance agent there, or an issuing agent there that actually lived in a town in New Hampshire, and that director had his name, was processing all our stuff and was very friendly until he retired. God, what am I still working? These guys are all retiring. And so I used to go down to Boston with clients and did that. So then I was a couple post offices up here where I live, and the one that's closest to me, they all know me there. So when I bring clients in, we've had clients come up from New Jersey, anywhere in New England, they'll come over and we'll go to that local post office. And so they're like, well, we know you know what you're doing here, and so it's not a weird thing. They're very welcoming, so that's nice. So I've had clients fly in from Georgia just to do the passport process. So it's also good to get to know clients that way. So anyway, it's been a joy, and I appreciate the clients telling us what troubles they have or what good things they have. like I was saying, when I was doing mine years ago, I remember doing my family's passport process. I already had done mine. I remember I had done our passports at the local post office, and we sent them in. And I was talking to the agent from the State Department, from the passport agency, where they were saying, she says, we can't issue a passport because the acceptance agent for your passport didn't sign your applications. And I had printed out, we had taken pictures, because one time I told this acceptance agent that the State Department alleged that the acceptance agent made mistakes. This woman worked for the post office for over 20 years. She says, I didn't make any mistakes. I know exactly. So she would, when we would do passports there, she would hold up the applications and let us take pictures of them so they could see that she was signing off on them. She was up for that. Her name was Jane. Great gal. Anyway, so we did that for a number of years. Anyway, so when I was talking to the State Department, they said it wasn't signed. I said, what passports are you looking at? I said, I'm looking at photocopies of our passports, and I'm looking at the signature of the agent right here in the pictures. So what are you doing? She says, hold the line, please. So she goes away, comes back, she says, all right, we'll send those out right away. You should probably see them tomorrow. And I was like, hey, look, it looks like something's really funky going on down there. I would contact your attorney and let them know that those people in your office might be giving you bad information that's illegal. So I would recommend contacting your attorney if I were you. And I said, have a nice day. Anyway, it was like the next day, all those passports showed up. So we have a lot of experience with respect to these processes. And this process has been hammered quite a bit by the State Department. So I'm very thankful for that. And there's some great people in that. But here's also what I know for the attorneys at the State Department with respect to passport. Here's what I know. They tell me the people at the post office, or not the post office, the people at the State Department do not read your documents. Okay? One time there was an agent that did read them, and they were doing all kinds of things they were making up about it. I remember having to write to them and saying, like, this is under penalty of perjury. You're telling me not to enter into a conversation with you about the citizenship laws of the United States. Looks like you're entering into a conversation. Don't enter into a conversation with us. These documents are submitted under penalty of perjury. Just issue the passport. So, and of course, they did that because we pushed back. We pushed back, and not like in a bad way, but it's been a good thing. We always accomplish what we're after. It's been a good thing. So, anyway, thanks so much for that, and we'll move into talking about federal jurisdiction. You know, all this stuff, this freedom work is very personal and very, when you're dealing with the human character, people are not all in the same place. Okay, I mean, there are similarities that people have about themselves, and of course, everybody's different. It's a paradox, and that's the things of God are typically a paradox. It means that it looks like one thing, it looks like another thing, and they look like they're confusing. Like a paradox would be, you can't trust people, and yet you have to trust people. Okay, so freedom has a kind of a paradox about that, so everybody's journey is their own, and you have to learn how to. I mean, you don't have to learn. You can bash your head all the time about these processes, but what you think about doing this stuff can be either a problem or it can be a blessing for you. I'm crazy, and so dealing with bureaucrats, for me, I like it. I like going down and just dealing with the people that are serving me, because that's what they're there for, to serve me. I remember when I would go to the federal building down in Boston and walk in and go through those metal detectors and all that stuff. And so when I'm talking to the agents there, I never forget that I'm in charge. I never forget this is my building. We pay for this, okay? And so taxpayers pay for it. So I walk in with I feel, is this room, is it warm enough, or is it Is it cool enough for me? Because this should be comfortable for me. These people serving me. So I mean, that's the way I am, and I don't try to come across as arrogant or anything. And again, when you're dealing with government and on any level, you definitely want to keep your emotions in check. Okay. I remember saying to the guy I was getting a birth certificate for my son a while back, not recently, but a while back, and I remember him saying something about what he wasn't going to do and all night, and I told him, I said, well, now I'm really getting angry. He said, sir, you don't have to get angry. I said, well, I'm not really angry. I just wanted to see if that strategy would work with you. So, and again, I look at this kind of like a game, because once you do things long enough and enough times, you just know what's going to happen all the time. And that's the same way when we're doing our paperwork and all that. I think one of the unique things about our process and what we do, and in the, I'm one voice in what we call the tax honesty movement. And again, I've been at this a long time, and there's a number of us that know each other, and we interact with each other, and not everybody's on the same page, okay? And so part of me, I'm okay with that, because people have to make up their own mind what they're going to do, and they have to learn for themselves what they're going to do, and that's an important lesson to learn. I remember hiring Paul Mitchell, who wrote The Federal Zone. That's probably one of the best books out there, and and I would have him writing for me. I remember back Lynn Meredith, who wrote Vultures in Eagles Clothing. She went to prison with respect to trusts and some of the stuff that she was doing, and not because she was making mistakes, but because the clients that she has were doing things that she wasn't saying. And of course, IRS many times will use these people against them in order to get the other person. So, I know that's all playing out. I was going to testify at a trial. She decided she didn't want us to do that. So I've been involved a long time, and we've seen a lot of stuff. So I don't tend to like to criticize other people's work, but I think everyone's work stands on its own, and people get to determine whether it serves them or whether they think that seems logical and real. Okay, I've had some very strong mentors that would say, here's what we're doing. You have to look up the statute codes. You look up the cases. You understand your stuff. That way you can believe it for yourself. If you're relying upon whether someone else is right or not, you haven't done your homework. Everybody from my Bible teacher who would say, don't take my word for it, look up the verses, look up this, you study it like that. And I had a mentor who did hours and hours on Skype with me, and I just wanted him to give me documents. He was giving me documents, but he was asking me about what I believed, and was wanting me to. He would ask me rhetorical questions and things. It was rigorous to listen to him, but that's the price I had to pay in order to get the information that he had for me, that he felt that he had to give to me. Again, I've paid my dues with respect to my own work, and part of that is why, I have a certain confidence in what we do. I don't tend to do things that everybody that we are a part of can use. I use, in most everything we do, I've done for myself. Everything from our debt discharge to our passport process to all of the things we do, I've done myself where we are and with other people. So there's quite a bit of safety in that. So one of the unique things that that I think that we bring to the table, and that is the federal income tax is not a violation of your rights, nor is it unconstitutional. I think that's, most people cannot understand how the IRS can be constitutional. Some say that the IRS, and I have no reason to doubt this, is a corporation out of Puerto Rico. A corporation out of Puerto Rico. I wonder if that's in the federal zone. Of course, doesn't matter if it's a corporation. It's still in the federal zone, and they deal with U.S. citizens and resident aliens in the collecting of their income tax worldwide. And of course, the IRS and the banks are hand in hand, because the IRS is a collection agency for the central banks. They're hand in hand. Not going to typically get between those two things. But understanding what they are and how they are is important for you to understand, okay, they're doing what they're doing. Okay? So, and people may have presumptions about you and about whether you're a federal citizen or not, and you may be having to correct that presumption. But listen, if the IRS is dealing with you and you understand these processes, you're not a federal citizen, all, just remember, they're not after you like it's a personal thing. It's not that way. And if you're relating to it that way, you're basing that on your emotions and not on facts and evidence. Because if the IRS is pursuing you, it's because you have filled out paperwork incorrectly, and you have given them reason to believe that you're in the federal zone because that's the way you've been doing it. When you take that responsibility and own your errors, that's a stronger place to be, and that's where we want people to be. And then, so in our class, the state citizenship class, we spent about 6 hours dealing with the creation of the states and what that is, their stand against their central government, which was the King of England, and how the Constitution supports, by way of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, that the federal government has exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in their jurisdiction, in the District of Columbia, and of course, federal bases and Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Samoa, all those places that they have in their jurisdiction. And one of the things that's in their jurisdiction, as the 14th Amendment says, is the U.S. federal 14th Amendment citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And of course, every alien that comes to America, legally, that does a visa or whatever it is, they're all coming into the United States, the District of Columbia, on paper. Many of them never go to Washington, D.C., so they're not really residing in the District of Columbia. They're residing in their state or whatever, but on paper, they're saying they're residing in the District of Columbia. And it's amazing that if someone is a resident alien in America, they filled out their visa, green card, or whatever it is, and they travel back to their country to visit, and let's say they're working in that country, so they're not a U.S. citizen, but there's a resident alien, the federal government will still tax that money, even they're making anywhere else on the planet, as long as they're a resident alien, as if they're in the District of Columbia. That's because that's how they have filled out their paperwork. That's what people don't realize that they're doing. So you have more power than you think you do with respect to federal jurisdiction. Okay. And so that is, to understand that is important. So many times when I'm talking to people and clients, I say to them, it matters less that you know or you believe that you don't have an income tax liability. It matters more that you do understand who does and why. So if you know who does have an income tax liability and why, that's more helpful. You'll be able to build your confidence better in that capacity. And the other thing that people miss so often, and that is the definition of the term United States. Anytime the federal government or a state or any entity is asking, are you a United States citizen? You cannot properly answer that question without qualifying the definition of the term United States. And when I say that, I'm talking about the definition of the term United States. I'm not saying the definition of a U.S. citizen. I'm not saying that. This isn't about the word citizen. Many times when we deal with the state, whichever entity, and you say, what is the definition of the term United States? Many times they make up and think that you're asking them about citizenship laws and about who's qualified to get a driver's license or to vote or whatever it is. That's what they're making up about your question, instead of specifically saying, what is the definition of the term United States? Not what is the definition of a citizen of the United States. That would be a bad question for you. And then so that's a huge part of understanding this process and getting that term correct. And of course, the Hooven case from 1945 shows that there are 3 different separate meanings with respect to the term United States. And and I've watched congressional testimony where they've used the term United States, and the attorney asking or answering questions, they'll say they'll use the term United States, and they'll say there are many definitions of the term United States. Which one you're referring to? The name of the federal government is the United States. So if the District of Columbia, as in the tax code says, defines the term United States by the District of Columbia, be careful if someone asks you, do you live or work in the United States? It's like, don't be quick to answer that. At the same time, not to be quick to answer that, many clients are quick to answer that question with a no. And I want you to know that I am a United States citizen and I'm not a United States citizen. Both those statements are true. It depends on the definition of the term United States. So that's hugely key to understanding this federal jurisdiction with respect to taxation and those things. Okay. Another thing that we've understood for a number of years, but in the last year it's come up more times than not, and that is when you're really looking at the federal citizen. Federal codes govern U.S. citizens and resident aliens. And the amazing thing about the U.S. citizen and resident alien, now remember, this resident alien, this is a legal alien in the United States, that's the term they're using, doesn't vote, they don't have representation in the Congress, they may be on Social Security and paying in or receiving Social Security benefits, and they're an alien. The Congress doesn't represent them, and yet they're in federal jurisdiction. And the federal citizen is always hand in hand with this alien who's in the District of Columbia. The individual in the federal codes, federal code of regulation, the individual is a U.S. citizen and resident alien. The State Department, we have this in writing on letterhead from State Department, the State Department defines U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment. We know that. We've read it. We don't have to make that up. Therefore, we understand that that's a citizen that's in their jurisdiction and subject to that. That's who has that income tax liability. Now let's talk about a couple other things that people wonder about. How about federal gun laws? If I ask someone who's a big gun guy or whatever it is, and I say, do you believe that federal gun laws are constitutional? Many will say they don't believe it is. They cannot understand how the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, and then you have federal gun laws. They don't get that. Well, let me make it easy for you, okay? The 14th Amendment citizen is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And the federal government in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 has exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever. So that's where federal gun laws are in that jurisdiction. Deals with the District of Columbia and their citizens, and of course resident aliens would be in the same category. So if someone was going to do, and I don't recommend ever buying from a federal arms dealer, but if you were, and you're a state citizen and you're not a federal citizen or resident alien, you would have to fill those forms out as a non-resident alien, and whatever that says about that would be accurate. And then so that's how federal gun laws are congruent with the Constitution and the Second Amendment. Federal gun laws do not violate the Second Amendment because it's in their jurisdiction, just like a military base. If you come on a military base, you should not expect that your rights would not be violated. Now look, even within the federal jurisdiction, they have limitations, and they can't violate someone's rights in that capacity, their human rights, allegedly. But how's that working in Guantanamo Bay or other places of military base? The military base, come in your car, search it all day long with or without your permission, doesn't matter, because you enter the base, you've now entered a military zone. That's the same way the District of Columbia is, okay? So that's congruent with the Constitution because Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution gives them that authority in their jurisdiction. How about drug laws? Same thing. U.S. citizens and in the District of Columbia, not in the states. Now, if the states have invited, by way of money, drug money, so that the federal government's regulations and codes come in. That's how they come in. But again, those laws are for federal citizens and resident aliens, okay? That, or U.S. persons or whatever. And if you look at the codes, it makes sense. Because look, the 10th Amendment of the Constitution says the power that's not been delegated to the federal government, to the United States by the Constitution, is reserved to the states and the people. That's the 10th Amendment. So if the power of the federal government isn't disclosed in Article 1, Section 8, which is what discloses the federal government's limited power, then that power belongs to the states or to the people. Okay? So how about like drug laws? Drug laws are in their jurisdiction. How about civil asset forfeiture? That's part of the drugs or some other things where it says like this doesn't make sense that how's this constitutional that you can have your property taken from you without due process. Why? Because it's for U.S. federal citizens, resident aliens, or it's in the District of Columbia. That's how it's congruent with the Constitution. What about immigration? Does the word immigration even show up in the Constitution? It does not. So is the federal government doing immigration? Of course. And so where are they doing immigration? Federal citizens, resident aliens, and wherever the states have brought them in, then they govern accordingly based upon the agreements of the legislatures of those states. That's what Clause 17 says in the Constitution, and that's how it's congruent. So many of the aliens that are in America may not be in the District of Columbia. Therefore, that issue is a state issue, and a state can do what it wants. And you see right now on the southern border, some states feel one way, other states feel a different way. California is gracious towards people coming up from the south and being there. Other states are more fierce, and it's in their power to secure their border accordingly. And that is it. Worst thing going on the southern border is the federal government. So, how's that working for us? It's not. Even naturalization, the federal government naturalizes people into the federal zone, into their jurisdiction. That's the way it reads on paper. And people don't look up or understand it. They just go along, they get a social, and they become federal citizens in their naturalization process, even though on their certificate, the state that they naturalize into is really where they're naturalizing. The federal government has in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, they were delegated the authority to come up with a uniform rule to be implemented by the states. And that was implemented in a common law court of record in the states. Okay? That's where naturalization happens in the states. And we're interested in bringing that back to the states. And again, if you have ignorant states and you have people in the states that are ignorant of federal jurisdiction, then you're going to have people's rights violated, and people are going to gray that, and the federal government is going to not usurp their authority. It's going to be the states derelict in their duty. That's really what's occurring for what's happening in the states. So so people will say, are you suggesting that all these attorneys that go to law school are clueless about this here? Well, yeah. Attorneys are as clueless as doctors are clueless on your health and what that is. Doctors know about two things. They're taught how to drug you and serve the big pharma, and they know how to cut out the offending organ. The best thing the medical community does is emergency care. That your leg gets broken, you're bleeding out, they're spectacular with respect to keeping you alive. Having you be healthy, not so much. And then when you say to me, are you suggesting that these attorneys don't understand certain things? Listen, I'll help you with all attorneys, okay? Here's how it works. Any attorney that wore a mask isn't worth anything. One, never looked up anything, doesn't know how masks work, and are pretty much going to do whatever they're told to do. So if you saw anybody in government wearing a mask, other than that they were being compelled to do so, that person would probably shoot you or gas you or do something, because they're pretty much going to be an order follower, and that's pretty much where their head is. That the beauty of the mask was it lets you know who's a statist and who isn't. That's a beautiful aspect of that. It doesn't matter what party they belong to. That's just the way it is. So you can see that this idea of being a state citizen is all encompassing with respect to a lot of these laws that play out. So we're in this space, we're trying to secure people's rights. When we talk about upholding the Constitution, I'm sad to say this, but generally speaking, I believe that the federal government is upholding the Constitution most all the time. What you don't understand is how much power the Constitution has given them, and also how much money they have coming into the states. Every single state of the union is in federal jurisdiction where it receives federal dollars in some particular area of whatever it is, and it's massive. I know in New Hampshire, I talked to one of the executive council in New Hampshire, and I don't recall the number, but it was like 40 or 60% of the budget was federal dollars. No state, this goes for California, Texas, New Hampshire, no state with a secession movement will ever leave the union without first growing up and paying their own way. If they cut the feds out of their budget, you would see the federal government leave the state in a big way. Do you know TSA is in your state based upon how much money the TSA gives to the state? The TSA in New York City is massive. TSA in Wisconsin, very small. There's one or two people there. So it's different money for every state. And that's how the federal government gets into these states, is by handing out cash. That's a big part of that. So that's not a violation of your rights, but what you're being violated is you're being violated by your state that's inviting the feds in that capacity. So understanding that, it makes it much easier to see. So I'm for, so when we talk about securing the Constitution, how's that working for us? I'm afraid not. I had someone ask that was going to run for Congress talking to me in New Hampshire, and I said it was an impeccable gentleman that would do well. I would trust him immensely to be a congressman and all. But I told him, I said, I can't vote for you or support you to go into Congress because I refuse to send good people into the cesspool. Okay? There's no good thing comes out. I'm all done with the union. And so, you get all these people out there, masturbating over the flag and all that stuff. Is like, they have this false sense of like, oh, union, our union. They're just like, look, would you think that the Germans or Italians would be lunatics if they were all about their European Union flag? We do politics like sports. We have the blue team, red team. It's like, this is ridiculous. But again, that's where people's heads are at. They think America's a country, and then they have this false sense of like patriotism about the pedophile union. So, and I say that to be insulting. So I hope you're not insulted, but it's just bad. And I promise you, there's nothing that's going to clean it. If corruption was gangrene, what do you think you're going to do? What are you going to cut out of DC that's not got the gangrene in it? It's all there. It's not going to make it, folks. So this is how it plays out. I say make America states again. That's the beauty of it. And so there's no president there's no power a president has to determine the spending power the Congress has. Never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Understand that Congresses always control the president. End of story, full stop. They can cut the funding like that, and the president has nothing. Do you understand? Okay. Just so you know, if you have an expectation for that, not going to happen. It's time to wake up. So, anyway, speaking of waking up, tomorrow night's our Matrix call. That should be a lot of fun. That's about building your separation of powers. Yeah, show me separation of powers. That would be great. That presupposes that one power is going to check and balance the other power, but not likely. Corporations, two things that I would, I said it looks like three, two things that I would do with respect to government that I would abolish immediately. One is their ability to incorporate. No more corporations. If you're doing business, be fully responsible for it. End of story, full stop. And if people feel that they can tax your right to do business, that's another matter. I sure it's easier to pull out of that. Corporations can be taxed and regulated. So corporations are the scourge of the earth, definitely. That because people are there to make a profit and blah blah. They're willing to take losses. I mean, not losses, but they're willing to have a lot of expense of doing business while they make a massive profits. Corporations bad. The other thing I would eliminate all governments to be able to do, and that is to borrow money, because then you have banks in bed with government. That's a bad combination, and so therefore that should never happen. Because the immoral part about borrowing money is that you're taxing children that have never voted for those people or what they're doing. So it's basically taxation without representation, and so it's immoral. So it should be stopped immediately. That's what I recommend. And again, I'll deal with my state of New Hampshire. You deal with the state that you're dealing with, and hopefully that work out well. But anyway, I just wanted to cover some of that stuff about the foundational aspects of the federal government. So let me open up any questions. And see, someone on YouTube was saying, I was referring to how no president can put a leash on God. Exactly. And then somewhat vice versa. They have certain things that they have that that the president can do that the Congress can't compel. Now, the Congress has, I personally believe the Congress has more power than the president, because they can certainly impeach the president. When was the last time a president pulled a congressman out? Never happens. The president does control the executive branch, which is the enforcement part. So he's got the muscle on his side, and then, of course, there's some of that playing out. Then add the judiciary, which was the worst body that the founders were concerned about, was an overreaching judiciary. So if we don't have the legislature checking the judiciary will be out of control. And guess what? The judiciary is out of control. Again, if people are going into secure rights, as an anarchist, I'm not an anarchist, maybe a min-anarchist, but I believe that government is necessary, and the reason that is because there's evil people, and so the only purpose of government that I support is to secure rights. End of story, full stop. Everything else is not appropriate at all. So just if they were securing rights, listen, people would be okay with being taxed if the only thing they did was secure rights. What a blessing that would be. But beyond that, that's out of control. So that's where I'm at with respect to what I believe government should be. So yeah. And again, the reason that I support government is because I know there are evil people. There's evil people in foreign countries. There's evil people in courts and other places, and just in our personal affairs. And again, the most powerful government that there should be is your neighborhood and your local town, the most powerful. And as the government moves away from your town, like the county should be less, I should say it this way, more impotent than your town, that the people that are there. And then the state should be less powerful than the county. And then the state should be, the federal government should be less powerful than your state. And that's the way it should work. The farther away the government is, all they should be doing is talking and really have no authority or power at all. End of story, full stop. That's the way it should properly be. The worst thing you could deal with is your neighbors. That would be it. And again, if that was a peaceful relationship and you weren't trying to control them and they weren't trying to control you, the world would be a much kinder, gentler place. So anyway, that's my sentiment on government. Let's I appreciate those that are online and some of the comments and questions you have. And again, I'll review those and answer anything that's on there. I'll be glad to do that. Any questions on our go-to meeting, and if there are questions, I'll of course pass them on to YouTube so that you can hear what they are, or I'll tell you what they write in our chat. But we're coming to the end of this time here. If we have some questions about state citizenship or any of the things that I've said, do you have any comments? I'd be glad to respond to that. It's been a quiet night. So, and again, if you want to be a part of that Matrix call tomorrow night, be sure to email me at statecitizendestinationfreedom.org, and I'll send you an invitation. I'll be doing that right after this call is sending out the link for that particular one. And of course, you should watch the film or be familiar with it before we do the call, so that so it's all fresh in your head. Because we're going to listen to the film, and I'm going to do a commentary on it, and should really inspire you. Someone says, to prevent one's children from entering the federal zone, do we not request a birth certificate? Of course, it's in parents' power to not get a birth certificate at all. Many times, even though if you're not going to get a birth certificate, then you're going to need to enroll the doctor and the midwife into signing a certificate, your certificate of and a written record of your child's birth. And anybody else that's a participant and have signatures, do up a beautiful certificate of your own. That's one thing. If you give birth at a hospital, the hospital will create a birth record, and it'll be baby girl, whatever the mother's last name is. They will create a birth record for you. We have like 2 or 3 clients in which they have children that don't have a birth certificate. We have not overcome the passport process on somebody that doesn't have a birth certificate. Now, we have certificates of naturalization, and so I have an adult whose parents never got him a birth certificate. Now, I don't know whether that means there's no birth record. We have to find that out. But sometimes the states create a birth record if you're inquiring and you're filling out a form to do it, so sometimes that's problematic. The no social security number, it's easy. You don't have to have a social. We've gotten passports for lots of children that have no social. There's parts of our process, and the State Department will ask, and we can fill out their form and state that there's no social security number. But the birth certificate is a challenge because the federal government has to be able to determine whether the child was actually born in the states or in a federal territory or whatever, or not. And the birth certificate is one of the ways they do it. There are people that don't want to do birth certificate because they're making up like it's monetized and all that. And it may be monetized, but it doesn't have anything to do with you. If you're going to get a birth certificate and you're concerned about that, then have an explanatory statement go along with your request for a birth certificate so it can say and deal with presumptions and things like that. And of course, we'll be glad to talk to you about that. So get the birth certificate, but do not register for Social Security. Well, I would never set kids up on Social Security. Another thing, because a lot of times to get a Social Security, if they're going to get hired by a corporation, they're going to want a Social Security number. They won't be able to get a job without a Social Security number with a corporation. So it'll be your responsibility to take your children and make sure that before they turn adults, they have their own business they're running in which they're doing it and they're making money on their own without having to come into a corporation. Someone asks, what are the stars on the passport? Well, the stars aren't on the passport. Stars or asterisks are on the passport card, okay? And a lot of people make up all kinds of stuff about them. We asked the State Department what the stars mean in a FOIA request, so we know directly what that is. And so they said it was security in nature and that they were not going to disclose what those particulars are, okay? Now, with that, when we got that information, we polled our clients. We have clients that have done these processes that have 1 star, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. I have 3 stars on my passport card. I have a client who had security clearance with the federal government, was in the military. He got 4 stars on his passport card. his wife, who also was in the military, and she had 3 stars. Same family. He had 4, she had 3. They have 4 children. 3 of the children have 3 stars. 1 child has 4 stars. So it doesn't mean what people think. I need a 5-star because it means do not detain. That's just pure patriot mythology. That's what we know, and that's what we have facts to back up. So it says Department of State attaches my explanatory statement to my birth certificate when I sent the DS-11. Is that significant? They may have a record of it. I've not known the State Department attaching an actual birth certificate to the certified documents, but it wouldn't matter. If it's an actual birth certificate, it's part of the record. Both are certified. It doesn't mean anything. It's not usual that happens. Usually they mail back the birth certificate that you submit. That's yours. They're usually pretty good at that. They'll usually make a photocopy. Many times the birth certificate, a photocopy of it, gets into the record. It's all part of it. It's all good. So I don't think it's too big of a concern. I think that would be good. Some good support is to, I think I could do a talk on, parents helping their children launch their own business before, before they come of age. The children could be working earlier before that. And then again, if you had the family business, then they would move right into that, and they would just be taking over the family business and be making money outside the federal zone and serving clients. That's just a beautiful thing. So that's what I recommend. Help having your kids in school. If you love your children, immediately take them out of public schools. Look, I went to public school. I loved high school because I was in the choir and in the theater, and I had a great time. So the extracurricular activities are far more part of my joy than my education. And of course, I was an average student. Failed some classes, aced some classes. It was all just a mix. But these days, I would not have my children subject to any kind of governmental school. I would homeschool or put them in a private school of your choice. That's if you love them. But the biggest thing is, do not prepare your children to work for corporations. Prepare your children to run their own business, whatever it is, and let them serve their clients and stay out of the federal zone. That's what I recommend. And we're committed to helping you do that. So, all right. We're coming to the end of our night. If you missed out or just came in, it looks like some people just came in. We're going to try to do these each week between now and the holidays. We'll shut down on the 21st before Christmas. And if we don't see you before that, I hope you have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, all that stuff. Hope you have a good time. And if there's anything we can do for you, just email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. Okay. My name is Christopher Gronsky. I'm glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We love you, and you are the best. Thanks for praying for us. We'll see you next time. Okay. Take care. And this is how you, let's see, how do we, there we go. Let's see if I'll